Today, we're diving into a story that Gandhi himself called a turning point in his life. It's the Champaran movement. We're going to see how the fight for India's independence really began, not with some big, loud explosion, but with a single, persistent farmer and a deep blue dye.
And that really is the central question here, isn't it? It wasn't a politician, it wasn't a general who got this whole thing started. It was a poor but incredibly determined sharecropper named Rajkumar Shukla. So how on earth did he manage to get a national leader to focus on one remote district and in doing so, take on an entire empire?
You know, the root of the problem was a plant, indigo. Now, its blue dye was like gold for European markets. But for the farmers in places like Bihar, it was a total curse. Indigo farming was just notorious for sucking the life out of the soil, making it completely useless for growing food. It was literally feeding the textile mills in Europe by starving the fields back in India.
And the farmers themselves? They were caught in this system called sharecropping. Basically, they didn't own the land they farmed. They were tenants, and their rent wasn't paid with money, it was paid with crops. And in Champaran, a tough, long-term contract spelled out exactly which crop they were forced to grow.
And this number, 15%, this number defined their entire lives. The contract, which was forced on them by British landlords, made every single peasant plant 15% of their land with indigo. And here's the kicker. They had to hand over the entire indigo harvest as rent. They got absolutely nothing for it. The whole system was just built for exploitation.
Okay, so now that you get the picture, this is where our story really kicks off. It doesn't start with Gandhi, but with the one man who just refused to accept this injustice anymore.
Picture this. It's 1916, at the massive Indian National Congress convention in Lucknow. We're talking thousands of delegates, all kinds of important people. And wandering through this crowd is a poor, skinny farmer from Champaran. His name is Rajkumar Shukla, and he has one simple, desperate plea for Gandhi. You have to come to my district.
Now, what's just incredible here is the sheer tenacity of this guy. I mean, Gandhi was busy. He had appointments all over India. But Shukla was just resolute. He followed Gandhi everywhere for months, to his ashram, to his meetings, never leaving his side, just begging him, fix a date. It was that absolute, unwavering determination that finally got Gandhi to say yes.
And so, Gandhi agrees. But here's the thing. He wasn't there to lead some big protest. Not yet, anyway. His first mission was way simpler. Just get the facts. And in the process, he would end up creating the very blueprint for India's entire nonviolent freedom struggle. His journey starts with a pretty big dose of reality. He shows up at the house of a lawyer named Rajendra Prasad, who would later become India's first president. The servants there saw the simply dressed Gandhi and thought he was just another poor peasant. They wouldn't even let him draw water from the well, afraid he'd pollute it because they thought he was an untouchable. From there, he just methodically kept going, on to Muzaffarpur to get more info and meet the lawyers who were supposedly helping the sharecroppers.
When Gandhi found out that the lawyers were charging these poor farmers huge fees, he basically scolded them. And this is pure Gandhi. He realized that going to court was useless for people who were so crushed and terrified. I mean, what good is legal justice if you're living in constant fear? That was the real battle that needed to be won. And then Gandhi uncovered the latest and, honestly, the cruelest twist. Turns out Germany had developed synthetic indigo, which was cheap, and the price of natural indigo just plummeted. All of a sudden, the landlords didn't even want the indigo harvest anymore. So they offered to release the peasants from that 15% deal, but for a price. They demanded compensation from the very farmers they'd been exploiting for years. It was just a shameless shakedown.
So now he has the facts, and his mission starts to escalate big time. What started as just a simple investigation was about to become a direct showdown with the British authorities, and this confrontation would become the first major test of the civil disobedience he was pioneering.
He tried to do things by the book. He went to the secretary of the British Landlords Association. But the secretary just flat out refused to give him any information, basically calling him an outsider. Gandhi's response was simple and powerful. He was no outsider in his own country.
The resistance just got stronger. The British commissioner of the whole region tried to bully Gandhi, officially ordering him to leave the district immediately. And Gandhi? He did not leave. Instead, he did the opposite. He went to Motihari, the capital of Champaran, and set up a headquarters to keep his investigation going.
This right here, this was the breaking point. A police messenger shows up and serves Gandhi an official notice to get out of Champaran. Gandhi signed the receipt, and then, right on it, he wrote back his history-making reply. He would disobey the order. He was told to show up in court the next day.
The next morning, the town of Motihari was just black with people, thousands upon thousands of peasants. They'd never heard about his work in South Africa, they just knew a Mahatma, a great soul, had come to help them and was now in trouble. Their spontaneous demonstration around that courthouse was so powerful, it was the beginning of their liberation from the fear of the British. The government was absolutely baffled.
The authorities, totally powerless against the crowd in Gandhi's calm defiance, they ended up just dropping the case. Civil disobedience had triumphed for the first time on this scale in modern India. But the fight wasn't over. Let's see how that first victory translated into real, actual change for the peasants.
An official inquiry was set up. The evidence against the landlords was just overwhelming, so they finally agreed to pay refunds. Now, this is where you see Gandhi's genius at work. He demanded 50% back. The landlords, probably thinking he'd never accept, offered a measly 25%. And to their shock, Gandhi immediately said yes. Why? Because the amount of money was less important than the principle. The real victory was that the landlords were forced to give back any money, and with it, a part of their prestige. For the first time, they weren't all-powerful lords above the law.
So the victory was total. But for Gandhi, the work he did in Champaran left a much, much deeper legacy. It wasn't just about economic relief. It was about teaching a whole nation how to stand on its own 2 feet.
And just look at the long-term impact here. Within just a few years, the British planters packed up and left for good. The land went back to the peasants, and that whole Indigo sharecropping system, it vanished. But the most important change, the one you can't really measure, the peasants had learned courage. They finally understood that they had rights and people who would defend them.
You know, Gandhi himself saw this as a pivotal moment. He later explained that what he did was actually a pretty ordinary thing. He just declared that the British couldn't order him around in his own country. That simple idea right there became the foundation for the whole national struggle. It was the moment an idea became real action.
And he taught this lesson to everybody around him. At one point, some of his followers wanted to ask a sympathetic Englishman to help their cause, but Gandhi was totally against it. He argued that their cause was just, so they had to rely on themselves to win. It was this profound lesson in self-reliance that became a cornerstone of the entire independence movement.
And so, the story of Champaran really leaves us with this final thought. It all started with one farmer's plea and ended with thousands of people finding their courage. It just goes to show you that the blueprint for a nation's freedom isn't just about politics or economics. It's forged in the exact moment its people decide to stop being afraid.